Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast channel where we discuss careers in tech and job search experience for immigrants in the US. I'm your host, Anna Naumova, an immigrant myself and a former product manager at Apple. I'm thrilled to be here sharing my knowledge and insights with all of you. Is the product manager role still lucrative in 2023? How challenging is the job market for product managers right now? What mistakes do candidates make, and how can they get a job offer in current market? Is it still a good time to start a PM career? And what tricks can junior product manager use to land a job offer? We will be focusing on this episode. Stay tuned. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please subscribe to my channel. Each week, I release new videos about job search and immigration to the US. If you need a perfect ATS-friendly resume or an advanced LinkedIn profile, please visit annanaumova.com to schedule a call with me. I also just released my ultimate guide for immigrants on how to create a perfect American resume and LinkedIn profile. You can find the link in the video description below. So my guest today is Jenny Zhao, co-founder and CPO of IQ Recruit, ex-VP of product at IQ Talent, and also ex-director of staffing. Hi, Jenny. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for having me.
Great. So you're such a great combination of product manager and recruitment side. So I'm really glad you to be here, and I hope you will share a lot of useful information from both sides, being a product manager and being a recruiter. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So recently I've helped co-found a company called IQ Recruit. It's a software product that helps recruiters automate the candidate sourcing process. Prior to that, I was working at a really large insurtech company based out of Nashville. And I was leading our digital products there for the last couple years there. And prior to my product career over the last few years, I actually came from the recruiting world. So kind of sandwiched a product and tech career in between the staffing and recruiting world. And I found myself boomeranged back into recruiting again. So
Yeah, you're such a perfect candidate to be on my podcast and sharing your knowledge about product management and recruitment.
yeah.
Perfect. So you're co-founder of the company called IQ Recruit. What does your company do, and who are your clients? How do you help them?
Yeah, so one of the aspects of the recruiting process is finding the candidates. So our primary customers are typically going to be recruiters, or in some cases for smaller companies, they could be hiring managers or even a co-founder, but anyone who's looking to hire. What we do is we automate that candidate sourcing process. So traditionally speaking, recruiters, when they're looking to try to fill a role, they have to go on a number of different places to find candidates. That could be actively looking through candidate databases, or most commonly, putting up a job posting and then sifting through hundreds and hundreds of resumes in order to try to find those like handful of people that are actually a fit for their role. What IQ Recruit aims to do is to save our customers time so that they don't have to go to all of these different places, and instead they can just get a curated list of candidate leads delivered directly to them in their inbox.
Mm-hmm. Could you share some insights? How do you select those candidates? We've heard already about ATS system that which actually selects candidates based on like keywords and other important information. Do you do anything differently?
Yeah, very much so. So we're not an applicant tracking system. That's a very clear distinction because our candidates that we provide aren't applicants. With applicant tracking systems, as the name suggests, you only get to see candidates that have discovered your job to begin with. And not only that, you've only see candidates that have actually gone through the process and taken the time to finish your application. So you're really limited to a specific pool of people using applicant tracking systems. Also, as you said, a lot of them look at things like keywords and frequency of words, which for a lot of jobs isn't necessarily the best way to find the best candidate. And so you miss a lot of candidates that are qualified, and you might filter through candidates that aren't qualified. They just had Chat GPT write their resume for them. Where we're different is we're actually anybody that has a publicly available profile on the open web. So LinkedIn's included in that. But if you have public information on, say, like if you have a Crunchbase profile, for example, or you have a profile on a company website, that's all information that we're able to go and scrape. So instead of waiting for people to apply for jobs, what we're able to do is find the best candidate for the job that our customers are trying to fill. And in doing so, it really broadens who we're able to present to our customers, as well as looking through things like actual real past experiences versus how good somebody is at adding keywords to their resume.
That's super interesting. So, like, which tools are you scraping sources? Like you already mentioned, LinkedIn. It's like probably like the number one place to create a profile. So the second one you mentioned, Crunchbase. So, anything else I need to create profiling as a candidate to be scraped by you?
It's not necessarily specific websites where you need to create a profile in. It's just making sure wherever you have publicly available information, keep it up to date. So it's as simple as, updating your LinkedIn, or if you do have a personal website, for example, that can get scraped by the open web as well. So it's about just having that. It's less about having a specific profile on a specific site. It's more about having a public presence on the web that ties you as a person to your work experience.
Mm-hmm. Can I make assumption that the more public you are, the easiest for recruiters to find your information about yourself, like to be more public?
I would kind of think of it as like SEO marketing for yourself as a person instead of SEO marketing for a company. You're trying to make yourself discoverable. If that's there's kind of two ways of recruiting, right? There's passive candidate recruiting and active candidate recruiting. Active is what most people are familiar with, where you're actually applying for a job. Passive recruiting is what's traditionally called headhunting, where somebody actually approaches you for an opportunity. In order to be able to get approached, you have to be able to be discovered and found.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it's actually a really interesting topic because I think that like in the current market, is it really necessary for companies to do this headhunting? Because the companies received like thousands of applications right now. Do they really need to source and find like another candidate? They have enough.
Yeah. So ironically enough, that's a great question. Ironically enough, given the sheer volume, we've actually found our product to really be valuable to recruiters because they're so inundated in volume that they can't get through it all. It's like one thing when you have, maybe like 50 resumes to look through, but when you have 500 and you don't really trust the, AI filters in your applicant tracking systems, what choice do you have? You either go through all 500 or you don't get through them all, right? There's not really an in-between there. So interestingly enough, in this type of environment where there's the pendulum has gone completely to the other side and there's just so much sheer volume, recruiters are overwhelmed. They put up a job posting, they get hundreds of resumes in 2 hours, and they don't even know where to start because the problem with that is it's not quality resumes. They're getting just a lot of people are applying because of the way the market is right now and because it is challenging. But because of that, when you have maybe about 10%, 5% of your applicants actually being relevant for the role, or people who've actually read the job description, you can get really fatigued looking through all of those applicants. And so this gives people an alternative to, again, look at the quality of the applicant, look for the best person for your job, not the best applicant.
So there is I see two approaches. So like the first one, recruiters, the companies post the job description on LinkedIn and get thousands of application, and then use ATS system to select top 10 percent of candidates, like 100 resumes, right, and go through them. Or they can use your tool and avoid that posting on LinkedIn and getting thousands of irrelevant applications, and just be proactive and select, I don't know, top 20 candidates based on your score. Is that correct assumption?
I mean, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. So I don't really see ourselves as necessarily having to replace anybody's current process. I consider it an alternative and a way to make recruiters more effective and be able to capture an entire talent base that they've previously not easily had access to. So, I don't think job postings, I don't know if they'll ever go away. I think there is a place for them, and it's very nuanced depending on the type of job. However, only solely relying on a job posting, I think you can talk to a lot of recruiters, especially in those industries where there is a lot of volume right now, how overwhelming it is and how difficult it is to filter through all of that volume, all of that noise.
So anyway, I see a really great outcome from this specific topic, that as a candidate, you have to have public presence. Not only you don't have you have to have not only your resume, like great, perfect resume, and just probably not only LinkedIn profile. You have to stand out. You have to have anything else, like your website that you mentioned, that it's also beneficial for candidates. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say in this current job market, to actually spend less time on your resume and more time on your public profile. Again, we say LinkedIn because they have a bit of a monopoly on the space, and it's probably the easiest place to get up and running to get your information out to the public. So for the intents and purposes of this conversation, we can just focus on that. But in this type of job market, I would say the more that you can leverage that LinkedIn network and that public profile, that's going to serve somebody much better than trying to, figure out all of these ATS systems. And just cold applying doesn't work. I mean, the amount of hires that result in cold applications is such a small sliver. Most hires come from a direct introduction or a referral or headhunting or some of these other means. So, I think that's one piece of feedback I'd give to job seekers at this time is it's a necessary evil. But if that's the only thing you're doing, you're not necessarily set up for success, because that's the lowest value activity you could be doing.
And we will talk about networking, some tricks and tips. Sorry, I'm just so tired today. A little bit later, but yeah, let's switch back to your personal background. I think it's worth to learn a little bit more about you and your career track, because it's impressive. So tell me about your career journey from a recruiter to PM and back to a recruiting field again.
Sure. So when I had, so interestingly enough, I was pre-med in college, and that wasn't necessarily where I landed, as you can obviously see. When I had decided that I didn't want to pursue medicine after graduating undergrad, I was in California at the time. And I loved Southern California. I wanted to stay out there. I did not want to move back home with my parents. And so that meant if I wanted to stay in LA, I had to find a job. So I essentially just went with the first job I got an offer at. It happened to be a college friend of mine who was working at this company as a recruiter, and she referred me. I interviewed. It was the only place I interviewed. This is the only job offer I got. I had no idea. I said yes, sounds great. And
When was
I
it?
ended.
Which year? When was it?
Oh gosh, you're making me age myself now.
Oh
It
no,
was
I'm sorry.
in.
I didn't want to that. I just want to like just compare with the current market. Is it like long time ago or like
It
recently?
was 2011. So
Oh,
the last downturn in the market, right?
okay. Yeah, but what is like 2011? It's probably better. Yeah, it's like recovering the market had been recovered from
It was a
2008.
it was a
Yeah,
pretty tough time. Yeah, it was
tough.
still it was still a pretty tough time. I was pretty lucky. The industry that I was in was specific. That the particular recruiting industry I was in was construction, so it was
Mm,
a little bit shielded from a lot of the other downturns. Which, interestingly enough, you're seeing that right now too. Is construction is still booming. There's
yeah.
still no shortage of jobs in construction. So I always found that kind of interesting juxtaposition between the industries. But
Okay.
um, I wasn't about to be picky about my job, and they were paying me a salary, and I got to move by the beach, and I got to stay in California. So I was like, great, well we'll do
Perfect.
this for a bit
Yeah.
and see how it goes. I ended up staying at that company for many 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 years. Took on a number of different roles. So um, beyond recruiting, I've done sales, I did training there, as a department head there, and eventually, um, by the time that I left that company, I was a general manager of the East Coast and Southern offices for that company. So really got to learn, all the ins and outs of staffing and recruiting, but I also got to learn a lot about how do you go and build a business and scale a business, because it was a smaller company, and I was able to learn so much, and I had really great mentors there that gave me a lot of opportunities to learn. Um, I did make a decision at that point, though. I didn't want to stay in staffing and recruiting at the time, and it's the only career I ever had, and I kind of just fell into it. And I ended up finding out, the last couple of years I was there, we were switching our applicant tracking system, and I really liked the technology piece of it. I loved
Did
talking
you
about the
like
data. I loved
ATS?
it.
Oh gosh.
I love talking about there was challenging. There's a lot of frustration, but I loved those conversations of, data migration, and how do you take this process that we once did for so long and like apply it with this new system, and like, what do you give and take in these processes? Why are we doing things this way? Why have we been doing things this way? Asking all these questions. And I really really enjoyed a lot of that. So I started kind of dipping a toe into try to find technology jobs. Nobody would interview me. My resume was all staffing and recruiting. Nobody would give me a call. Like, nobody would interview me. And then serendipitously, I had a good friend of mine from college, a different college friend, who's working at this company, and he said, we have this job in my team. I think you'd be perfect for it. Um, you should come out and interview for it." And I did. I took the job. And that's kind of how I eventually was able to take that job. Even though it was operations, it was adjacent to product. That's when I was first introduced to product management, and really loved all the aspects of it. I love the fact that you can kind of build something and put it into the hands of real users, get feedback, measure it. It was tangible, it was real, it was fast. And that's how I ended up laterally moving into product from that operations role at this company. So, and then was at that company for, gosh, was it like 6 or 7 years? So ended up staying there longer than I expected as well. And then this opportunity came up last year to co-found a company that marries these two worlds of recruiting and all the problems recruiting has, with now my newfound product knowledge, and being able to combine those two into one mission, one company that I'm really fortunate to be a part of now.
Yeah, I like it. And I think that is really a great combination because as a product manager, we really like, I believe that I'm a product manager and I feel that I'm more successful when I work for the product I love. I use by
Absolutely.
myself. Yeah, I used to work for a product I didn't use, and I didn't feel myself like really like I'm doing something meaningful. So, and the industries, the areas, what I love, it's really like so beneficial for product managers to succeed in this area. So I think, yeah, as a product manager, you have to find this specific like product or like area or industry, something to just and flourish there. So yeah, and I'm glad
Absolutely.
that you found and you combined two jobs actually, like recruitment and product management, to build a product for recruiters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Let's talk about our current market. So, like, what's your overview of the job market in 2023 from both sides, from the side of like being a recruiter and working on the recruitment field, and also from the product management perspective?
So, so I think overall in the job market, it really depends on the industry. The type of answer you're going to get is very
Yeah.
different.
Let's talk
I
about technology. Yeah. Focus on
Okay.
tech. Yeah.
Okay, so for technology, I mean, needless to say, it's been the most prevalent in the news. You hear all the layoffs, you hear all of this stuff happening, and I don't think any of this is going to be surprising or new, but it's been a tough year, and I think it's largely driven by the fact that cash isn't as cheap as it once was. And so, because cash isn't as cheap from a macroeconomics lens, cash isn't as cheap. That means that there's less cash available for these companies to spend into like R&D and innovation. Previously, when the interest rate was super low, you would literally be losing money if you weren't spending it, right? Because the rate of inflation was greater than your interest rates, and so that's why all these companies were investing in R&D and innovation, all these things. Well, with the interest rates now being higher and cash not being as cheap, that's where you see a lot of these layoffs happening. There's a lot of restructuring, a lot more in terms of focus back to core business fundamentals of profitability. And I think that's where you're seeing a lot of these layoffs happening with these larger companies, whether they're, Fortune 500 or whether they're even like a Series A, Series B, Series C type company. They can't afford to do as much. And so they're doing fewer things and trying to do those better. So
Mm-hmm.
what this all means now is you have a lot of talent available on the market. And that's kind of causing this like really upset system where people are having a hard time getting jobs. And it's not, it's a lot of really, really talented, smart people out there in the tech field. I do think a lot of higher level, I'd call it like mid-senior, and then like, higher than that. Those roles are going to be okay, but entry level is really, really hit hard. Anybody who's trying to transition into the field where they haven't previously already had that really specific experience is going to have a hard time. And even people who are experienced but trying to transition into, say, a different niche or a different industry or a different business line, say going from B2B to B2C or vice versa, they're going to be having a hard time. Once upon a time when the hiring market was crazy for tech, the mindset was this person can learn, right? They can learn this industry or they can learn this customer demographic or whatnot. Nowadays, when you look at your pool of candidates and you have people with specific industry experience that have this specific experience for the job, of course you're going to go with them first. Hiring managers and recruiters and employers now have that choice. And so that's kind of, I think, what you're seeing and feeling if you're a job seeker in the tech industry right now. And traditionally, tech companies, the hiring has just slowed down pretty drastically. They've done the layoffs. You can look at the job postings online, and it's a lot of the same, just kind of like evergreen. We'll call them evergreen type posts. They're not really new jobs. They just kind of
Mm-hmm.
have them up, but they may or may not actually be hiring for those things. And on top of that, they're probably hiring people who are potentially laid off or furloughed first back to the company before they're going and exploring new talent.
Interesting. Tell me more about that evergreen post. Why do companies have this post if they're not hiring anyone?
So anyone will tell you that if you find a really great candidate, that you should figure out how to hire them. So really, really, really great talent can be a game changer for any team or company. And so a lot of these companies, even if they don't have specified headcount, they may always have a couple of postings up, especially with larger companies, just in case somebody comes through that like serves a very niche purpose that they weren't expecting of getting, or whatever the case may be. And to always keep that pipeline, because you also want to be prepared. Like you can't just, especially for larger companies and really for any company, you really shouldn't ever cut off cold turkey and not ever talk to candidates. Because the thing about hiring is it's just as much of an opportunity of the right person at the right time as it is a need within the company. It has to be a little bit of both. And so really smart companies will always think about in the back of their head, even if we don't have any active positions right now or any glaring needs, to still keep up, in the back of my head, just a little bit open-minded in case somebody comes through that would be a really great fit or could service serve a need that, we didn't realize that we had. So that's why a lot of times you'll still see job postings up, and you'll never see like 0 postings up at large companies.
Mm-hmm. So I like this idea of evergreen posts, like on the field of candidates. So you have to be evergreen candidate. You can be always open to work and always open to new opportunity in case of the ideal company will come to you and just give you a better offer. So is that true?
Do you
Can you recommend that's like for candidates to be always open to work in that case, as companies do, to find the ideal candidate?
Absolutely. I think one thing that I've learned at this point is like, there is no such thing as a safe job, and there is no such thing as a perfect time. And I think once you kind of accept both of these things to be true, you have a little bit more agency in your decision making. And I don't think it ever hurts just to have a conversation. Even if you love your role, even if you're super happy, it never hurts to at least have a conversation. There's a few things that come out of it. One, you keep your interview skills fresh. That's really, really important. Secondly, you're building relationships, right, with a recruiter, or even if it's not the right fit now, even if it's not the right role now, you never know how things might move or change. So one example I give is when I went from that recruiting company into the insurtech company, actually the first time I interviewed, it ended up not working out, and I stayed at the recruiting company another year. And then a year later, when I left that recruiting company, I reached back out, and then I started a new job at that company. So it was a year before that job the job I ended up taking actually happened. But the conversation started well before then, right? And I think it's always a good mindset to be open-minded. I like the analogy of companies will always have evergreen jobs open. As a candidate, I don't think it hurts at all to keep yourself at least open to a conversation.
Yeah. That just came to my mind when I was listening to you.
I love that.
Wow, yeah. That can apply to candidates as well. Why companies do that and candidates do not? Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how this market actually like impact product managers?
Yeah, so it's always been hard to get into product management. I mean, I think over the last, call it 10 to 15 years, it's really become the hot, sexy job. and everyone wants to do it. And now I think it's even harder. The biggest challenge with product management is it's a catch-22. You have to have product experience to get a product management job. Well, how do you get your first product management experience if nobody's willing to give you that opportunity? And that hasn't changed. People have just found ways to get really creative to get their experience in order to do the job. So I think that's where it's impacted product managers a ton. Secondarily, there's a lot of communities I'm in who've really been highlighting burnout. Product managers are really burnout. So on one end of the spectrum, it's been challenging for people who want to get into the field or who've been laid off and are trying to find their next opportunity to get their next job. But on the other side, you have product managers who are just burnt out. And I think you're going to also start seeing some exodus of product managers leaving the field because they're spread too thin. And there's just been a lot going on over the last years and all these changes. And I mean, you as a product manager, you know how stressful product can be because you sit in the middle, but you can't actually physically do all of the work yourself. You have to rely on everyone else. And yet everybody's, you have to keep everybody happy, everyone in sync. It's just a lot. And I think we're seeing a lot of the repercussions of that of over the last few years, exacerbated obviously with the pandemic and all of the return to work and not return to work stuff going on here. So I think those are the two things you're seeing. Thirdly, I think for product managers, because of tech getting hit so hard, I think you're going to see a shift of product managers moving into non-tech industries. That in particular, I'm super excited about. So I think over the next decade in particular, you're going to see a lot of that. So if you think about it, all of this tech.
Yeah, just I want to learn more about it. Like which non-tech industries are they living?
So when you're thinking about all of these layoffs that are happening, LinkedIn and Google and Meta and yada, 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 insert blank, you have a lot of this really, really high caliber, really great talent that, those type of tech jobs aren't reopening at the same pace in which they're shutting down, right? So that means these people can go in a number of areas. They can go start their own company, which I think you're seeing that, which is pretty exciting. I think you're seeing kind of this like startup resurgence happening from a lot of this talent who are now creating their own opportunities. Or you see people moving into a different type of field, or you start seeing people enter these non-traditional tech industries like construction, retail, industries that are not sexy and could previously not afford to compete against a Google or a Meta. They can't pay what a Google or Meta pay, right? But now this talent's available. They're still booming. Construction in particular, that one comes top of mind for me. But they've got money, and there's this ripe, or trucking's another really great one, an industry as well that's non-sexy. And they're ripe for disruption. There's a lot of opportunity because not a lot has shifted over the last, decade or two. So I think that's where a lot of opportunity is for this tech talent to shift, is into some of these non-traditional tech industries, and to add tech-enabled functionality into these types of spaces. I'm biased. We're in HR tech, recruiting tech right now, non-sexy, slower to change type industry. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, because there's a lot of opportunities for improvements and for change.
So, and what type of work are they doing? Is this still like the same tech, like digital product management, or something else? So I can imagine that, that like retail, for example, Walmart, they do have their mobile application. They do need product managers to work on mobile applications. So is this areas are you talking about, or like a completely different? I don't know, being a construction manager, I don't know.
That's included, but if you think about product management, what is it all rooted in? A problem that users face. So, if you're talking about retail, look at what Nike's been doing with, a while back, I think they acquired what was like Map My Run or something like that. Like they're integrating the tech into the actual clothing to start building a digital lifestyle, and have all of this data and information. Adidas is starting to do the same thing with their membership signups. You talk about Walmart. Walmart has their subscription, Walmart Plus. They're trying to get into that game where, again, they're trying to start better connecting the dots between all of these physical in-person experiences. You turn to something like construction. I mean, there are a number of problems. You can be solving a problem for a construction manager. You can be solving a problem for the workers on the field. Like, how do they track their hours? How do they report incidences? How do they do safety checks? Like, all you have to do is start from a problem, right? Like,
Or
what
digital
problem
twins.
needs,
Yeah,
what problem needs to be solved, and how can, and I think rather than thinking of technology as what's leading it, think of the problem, that what's the problem that's leading it, and how can it be better solved with technology.
Yeah, I agree with you. I recently conducted an user interview for construction, how the real estate can use a digital twins technology, 3D environment.
Yeah.
And this is a great combination of kind of old-fashioned industry, how they showcase their properties, especially with which is under construction, and they cannot actually showcase to their potential investors. And on the other hand, there's 3D and virtual reality technology. So like that
Absolutely.
helps construction managers to like sales managers to showcase their new property. So that's a great combination. Yeah.
There's I met someone who heads product at a drone company like a year or two ago, and they're doing some really cool work where it's on agriculture. It's helping farmers, be able to better predict their planting schedules and all of these things, using drones to survey the areas and help them kind of use data to make smarter decision making. I mean, you take, and they do this for construction as well, right? To do site surveys like that before, you have to manually do, and you have to consider weather conditions and all of these other factors. And I mean, I think these are things, again, just very traditional ways of doing work that still need to be done, but how can it be enhanced, done better, done more accurately, with the help of technology?
Cool, yeah. And I've heard about even government. Also, the government wants to digitalize their services as well. So they also hire product manager from big tech to just improve experience. Yeah. That's super interesting transition. I really want to see what's going on in like 5 years in this area. All right.
Likewise.
Yeah. So let's talk about challenges. What challenges do product managers face right now when looking for a job? And what mistakes do they make? Let's talk about like middle or senior product managers, not junior so far.
So needless to say, as we've already discussed, there's a lot of competition. I think the answer to this question largely lies in individual circumstance. So are you in a position that you can kind of still hold out for something that you love? Or are you in a situation which is perfectly fine to you that you just need a job? And I think being able to answer that question is really important to how you steer your job search. If it's the former, where you're laid off from a big company, got a big fat severance, and you've got savings put away, and you can really be picky and choosy about what you want to do next, you should absolutely be picky, right? Make sure it's like fine. Think about like what it is that inspires you. What do you want in your next role? What did you like about your last role? What do you want in your next role? And you can be picky. If you're in a situation where time is of the essence and you just need to get your next job, you're going to have to lower your standards a little bit. Companies aren't paying what they were paying before. I think that's first and foremost. And you might just have to think about it as an in-between job until the market heats up, or that next opportunity, comes about, and then you're able to make that move into your next role. So I think that's the first consideration to make is it's not what it was a couple years ago where PMs have the power to negotiate. It's just not that. That's the reality. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people have going into it is being aspirational, but also not tapering that with a little bit of realism and a little bit of a bite of humble pie, if you will. So not to say that to dissuade anyone or you should always chase after your dreams, but if your individual circumstance begs something different, it's okay to like settle for a short period of time before making your next move. And then I think as far as other mistakes, I think the top thing is what we talked about earlier is people not diversifying their job search strategy. You should really treat your job search strategy like you would any other, product A/B test or iterative test that you do. It's going to be different for each person, for each market, yada yada yada. So like, start on a path, have a strategy in place, like look at the data. Is it working? Is it not working? If it's not working, tweak it, try something different. Don't keep trying the same thing if it's not working for you. I recently just had a meetup with a group of women in Nashville earlier this week. And that's exactly what one of the women shared was how she changed her strategy. Like for the, she was fortunate where she got a little bit of a severance from her last place. And so she mathed it out and said, okay, for the first like 2 or 3 months, I'm only going to target my dream jobs, the jobs that I really aspirationally want to go after. And after I run out of that time, she time boxed it. If I don't find something by then, I know I have this much burn left and I need to just like find a job, period. And then she adjusted her job strategy accordingly. So I thought that was really, really smart because, she's still going after what she wants to, but then like she time boxed it, and realistically there's a problem that needs to be solved. And at some point that problem is I need a job, I need to pay the bills. So her priority shifted a little bit and her search strategy shifted a little bit as that result. Additionally, I would say don't just apply, like you got to go out and talk to people. I think that's the biggest thing is you can't just like send it out into the ether and then just like cross your fingers and hope. You've got to be a little bit more proactive than that. So reach out to people on LinkedIn, network, ask for referrals, like build relationships in addition to just doing the applications.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I like that you mentioned that like realism. I think, yeah, we all need to come back from aspirational like product management to be like realistic product management. And also I noticed that in a big tech companies as well. So Meta mentioned that efficiency would be their goal. So I just remember the PM interviews like a few years ago, and on that product design interview, you have to build like a spaceship, yeah, without any budget restriction. And now the market changed, and you need to be more lean, yeah, or like MVP approach. Okay, we need to like to think about budget, about money, be more lean, like use that, count this, calculate this unit economy, etc. So you need to calculate the return on investment, like etc. So even at Meta, efficiency is a kind of new value probably. So that's like interesting shift even in big tech. And I think for like product managers, it should be also a goal. And also I like your idea, just do not just apply. Yeah, and we will talk about network a little bit later today because I think it's a very important topic. But yeah, and think about your strategy. Your strategy should be also like flexible. And as a product manager, yeah, you can apply your product management skills to your job search. The same, like it's a problem solving experience. Yeah, think about from this job search problem from different angles. Like think about multiple solution, test it, MVP, A/B test. I don't know, like apply any other like out of the box and think out of the box. Yeah, create something new. Yeah,
so absolutely.
Yeah, I like it. I
It's
like it.
all about standing out right now. I mean, I think that's the core of it all is as a job seeker, what are the ways in which you can stand out? I think it's pretty safe to say that the hardest way to stand out is one application amongst hundreds of applications.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at, we're all in product here. When you look at metrics and numbers and conversions, if your top of your funnel number is smaller, then you're going to have a better chance at standing out and being able to convert to the next place. So if you're talking about hundreds of resumes and you're a small chance of being able to be that 5% of hundreds of resumes versus, I don't know, let's say, for all of the hundreds of thousands of applications recruiters get, they probably get lots of emails, but probably not as many emails as applications, right? And so then now when you think about the percentage of response rate that you might get from that, I mean, is call it 10 or 15% response rate out of 100. Is that a better chance than 5% out of 500? Use your skills in that way to optimize your funnels and optimize your channels. And it's not to say don't do any of these things, but spread out your efforts. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, perfect. So product managers should be focused. So, and prioritize their activities. You cannot do everything at the same time. So what would you recommend to help PMs to secure a job offer? Maybe to focus on something more specific.
So I think focus, absolutely. You can't do everything at once, but also create repeatable processes, right? I think that's the other part is, when you say, hey, go, reach out to recruiters or whatnot, how do you systematize it? I mean, you do this day in and day out as a product manager. Again, apply that. Don't work harder, work smarter. Find ways that you can systematize your process so that you're getting that reach and you're getting that efficiency in the work that you're doing, but you're also, being able to essentially target more channels. So whether that's splitting up your day of your week of saying, hey, I'm going to spend 20% of my time on this type of activity, 40% of time this week on this type of activity, and then high level track the results of those activities and see what is yielding the best type of results. And then based off of the results, then tweak your week to week on where you want to spend more time of your activity. So, you want to take a focused approach, but you do that in a way to basically understand what works for you and what works for the type of jobs you're seeking so that you can optimize and spend more time on the things that are yielding returns.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, but anyway, can you recommend something for product managers to secure a job offer?
I can recommend things to try. There's nothing that will secure you a job offer, period. I mean,
it's silver bullet.
I think there's no silver bullet. There's no silver bullet. And I think that's the thing that, a lot of these things, I think that's something that for job seekers that are frustrated in the process, I can see it being frustrated looking on LinkedIn and seeing all these clickbait stuff and this is the one thing you need to do. And it's that's not true. There is no one thing. It's a myriad of
it's just
a whole bunch of things. Yeah. And a little bit of timing and luck too. And so I don't want to go and oversell it and say there's one thing you can do. Now, that being said, if you're not trying to reach out and talk to hiring managers, if you're not reaching out and trying to contact recruiters directly, start doing that. Not to say that that'll be your silver bullet, but I think in just trying to talk to a hiring manager, reach out, you're going to get a ton of no's and a ton of people who are going to ignore you. But by applying to a job, trying to find, hey, who might be the leader, the hiring manager, who's the person that's actually like this person's going to report to on their team. That's who you need to target and try to find. LinkedIn's great for that. They make it very easy to search and you can stalk people all day and just send them a little message of, saw your job posting, see that this is what you're looking for. this is, what I can bring to the table that helps solve that problem of this gap that you have. We should have a conversation, essentially. Start doing that. That's not going to hurt. And if anything, even if that job doesn't work out or whatever the case may be, you've made a connection. And maybe they recommend you to someone else. You've now expanded your network. So, I think don't be afraid to just meet people in this type of environment. Ask for help, ask for other connections, and make sure you're talking to people if you're not doing that already.
Yeah. And I've heard that people are afraid of doing that because they're afraid of rejections or ignore
Yeah.
or like hearing
Yeah, if you're afraid of
sound.
rejection and being ignored or whatnot, then product management is not for you.
True.
I mean,
Fair.
let's be for real. In product management, like you're going to be wrong more times than you're going to be right. And I think this is just good practice of not being afraid to just try. It's never easy to be rejected, but I will say it gets easier if you're doing it, at scale.
And you will be rejected anyway.
Absolutely. And all you need is just the one yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great advice. Okay, now let's talk about transitioning to product management. Is it still possible, or is PM role still attractive nowadays?
So for your first question on is it possible? Yes, like everything's always possible. I think that's the short answer. Everything's always possible. And is it still attractive? I mean, I'm biased. You're biased. We're in product. Of course, it's an attractive career. I'm biased, and I think it's the best career in the world. Now, that said, it's harder than it's ever been, like we talked about previously. So, I think the biggest thing, just to make sure that it's a good use of your time if you're trying to transition into product management, is make sure you actually understand what product management is. If you haven't, I remember at a previous company, I was interviewing for product interns, and there was 1 year I had like a number of interviews, like people literally came to interview for a product internship job, and when I asked them, what is your understanding of what product managers do, they couldn't answer the question. It's an internship, whatever, but still, I think that's really stuck out to me in realizing how few people will actually understand what product management actually is. So if you haven't done the research yet, there's a lot of amazing online content. Teresa Torres has a wonderful blog, Marty Kagan and the SVPG group. It's all free content. Mind the Product, who's been acquired by Pendo. Like, there's just so much ample free content out there that there's no excuse not to have sat down and just like watched a few things, read a few things, and at least have an understanding of what does the job actually entail. And if after doing that, you still want to do the job, pursue it. And sometimes you might have to say, hey, I need to, get a tangential job first. Maybe it's a customer success role that works next to product, or maybe it's a project management role that works with product to kind of get closer to it in order to transition into it. That's what I did at the last at my previous company. And that's okay too. But I think the number one thing is just make sure you know that this is what you want to do before you go and say, go towards the hard fought battle trying to get a product role.
But for people who actually watching us for about an hour and they might not understand who product manager is, can you give your description, your understanding of product manager for like brief understanding? We don't need to repeat.
Putting me on the spot here. So I think to me, the number one thing that product managers help do is they help a team or a company or organization, whatever it is, they help a group go and achieve an outcome, right? I think everything that a product manager does is rooted in defining the right problem to drive a specified measured outcome. And all of the activities that follow are all about driving that outcome forward. So that includes, that can include prioritization, that can include working with design on what's the actual right way in which to manifest, the solution. That could be working with engineering to talk about, okay, we have this much money left and we have to solve this problem. Like, what's the fastest way to get there? Like, you could be working with a number of different people, but all of it is centered around helping all of these different groups make the right decisions to effectively come together to achieve an outcome for the user, but also for the business. It's got to be both. They're not mutually exclusive. So I think that's, to me, what product does, and the biggest distinction I think that often gets confused between product management and product management is in project management. You're just doing the execution. In product, you actually have a say in the strategy and the direction and the why. Why are we doing this? Is it even important? What's the impact, and how are we measuring to make sure that we're either going to continue down this direction or try something different to try to achieve this outcome?
Yeah. I love this definition. I also use these outcome words, and the outcome can be very different. Depends on the company, depends on the product. It can be
absolutely
very, very different. It's not something specific. Yeah, it just might be really anything you can build and do, and even your career is a product. Yeah, you can
absolutely
apply these product management skills to building your career, to finding a job, to building your life. Life is a product. A great example. We're all product managers of our
It's just
life,
all about rallying everybody around this common outcome that, like, at the end of the day, if you can think about all of the culmination of actions that we're all doing in a given team, in a given company, what's the one purpose that we're trying to drive here, right? And I think that's where product managers are situated, is their ability to do that, is kind of speak that common language for various functions.
True. So how can product managers, like junior product managers, start their career in 2023? If they don't have actual experience, how to do that and how to find a job? You already mentioned that it's chicken egg problem to be a product manager. To start career as a product manager, you have to be a product manager. Yeah.
Right. So if you had the luxury to be able to take an internship, whether that's paid or unpaid, if you have that luxury to do an internship, that's probably the easiest. I say easiest way because that is in fact catered towards people with no experience to get real life experience, right?
But it's hard to find this opportunity.
They
are.
So I'm starting there. That's probably the most obvious way. If you do not have that luxury, I would look at product adjacent roles. So look for companies that have strong product teams and have a good, strong product culture, and try to find those companies and take any role within that you get a chance to see how a product org is run, be a part of that org. And what I mean by that is it could be a large company that has a product organization, and maybe there's a project management org or a customer success org that works with them, or a marketing org that works closely with product. That gives you that exposure into how the product team works, and by working alongside them, it makes it much easier to either transition internally within the company or have very specific things you can speak to when you're interviewing for your next role. Secondly, you can look at...
Can you give me a few examples of these product adjacent roles?
Yeah, so a customer success, like I mentioned, marketing, product marketing, those are adjacent. Project management, some companies will have separate project managers from product. Trying to think what else.
I think even QA design, even engineering can be a product managers if they want solving problems and talk to people. Yeah, why not? They just don't like doing that. The majority.
There's a lot. There's a large volume of product people who come from an engineering background.
Yeah.
A lot of these large organizations are started from an engineer. So anything that works alongside product. And you can ask that in an interview process. You can ask about the product culture there. Secondly, product-led companies. So if you're looking at more small to mid-sized companies, if it's a product-led company, you're gonna get a feel for the product process, especially for smaller to mid-sized companies where it's just that much more palpable and it's hard to escape that type of test and learn type mentality, the mentality of talking to customer, the mentality of looking at data to help inform decision making, all of those type of things. That would be my other recommendation, is to target those types of companies.
Perfect. So internship, product adjacent role, and product-led companies. That's your 3 suggestions. Perfect.
And you know what? You can start your own thing too, right? Like I've interviewed people that maybe they work for a product company that was just really slow and they didn't have a lot of autonomy because of the company they worked for, but they had side projects. They started like an Etsy shop or something, or they started like a consulting business or something, we're in this creator type of economy. It's really easy nowadays to set up a website or Etsy shop or a Shopify account or something, and just like create something on your own and speak to, hey, here's how I manage this as a product. All you need to do is have something where you can speak to your understanding, not only your understanding of how product management works, but your ability to actually materialize that into results.
So and we can come back to your definition of product management to have this outcome. So you can build your own stuff and make this outcome for your own business or for your pet projects or side project, whatever.
Absolutely.
Even like Etsy shop you mentioned. So if you can prove that in your resume that you had a outcome, who are your customers, you satisfy their needs, you were able to make money, competitors, like everything else. So you just build something. You can put it in your resume and just prove that you're able to make this outcome and make things done actually as a product manager.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So what else can you recommend for existing or future product managers right now in 2023 to land a job?
I think the biggest thing is don't do it alone. I think that's it's like we mentioned before, it's really tough out there. Find yourself a support system. And I don't just mean your spouse. I don't just mean your family members. Find yourself a community in the product space, preferably also job syncing. You're going to be able to share best practices. You're going to feel less alone. And those relationships are also going to serve you longer term as well. So we talk a lot. We spoke a lot earlier throughout the session about networking. That's continues to be my biggest piece of advice. And I know networking is broad and intimidating for a lot of people. But as with anything, use this as an opportunity to ask for help. Use this as an opportunity to connect with people. I think you'd be really surprised at how many people out there are willing to help and willing to give their time and have been in your shoes before. So there's no reason to go about it alone. It's that much more lonely and stressful when you do. So seek help, find support, use it as an opportunity to meet more people, to gain friendships, mentors, and others within the community.
Perfect. And sign up for Jenny's LinkedIn profile, because Jenny is talking a lot about some useful stuff about recruitment and product management. You can find a lot of information. Jenny, thank you so much for a very insightful conversation. And today we learned how a product manager can pass through job search process and land their job search or start PM career in 2023. Everything is possible, as Jenny mentioned. It's still PM job is still attractive. It's maybe harder nowadays, but still possible. If you want to learn more about Jenny's PM journey and her company IQ Recruit, please reach out to her directly. I will leave her contact information in the video description below. If you need to improve your resume or LinkedIn profile, you can reach out to me and go to my website, annanaumova.com, to schedule a call with me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or share it with your friends on social media who might be interested in this topic. And of course, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future video about immigration to the US, job search, or product management. Thank you so much again, Jenny. Thank you for everyone to watching this video. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks for having me, Anna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.